Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I am DV LeBron, and today I have very special guests. I have DA for the Ellis County, Miss Ann Montgomery, and I have Judge Wallace over here, who works in our local courts as a judge, obviously. I appreciate you guys coming on. It's pretty cool to meet the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the county, and that it's a woman. I mean, you know, it's cool for somebody who has a daughter. That's, you know, I love that. But I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that are going on in this county when it comes to the criminal justice system. And I'm very excited about one of the things we're going to talk about later. But I wanted you to kind of give us a rundown of what's going on, what are you seeing, and go from there.
Sure.
Actually, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'd like
okay.
you to introduce yourself to the people, and Judge, if you could, and
Sure.
tell the people about yourself briefly.
Okay. As Dee Dee says, my name is Ann Montgomery. I'm the Ellis County and District Attorney. I took office January 1st of this year. In February 3rd of this year, I celebrated my 18th year in this office. So I came here in 2003. I've pretty much performed every job there was in this office, and when Mr. Wilson decided to not run for re-election, I was the first assistant, so I decided that that was something that I wanted to do to continue to serve my community that I've become a part of. I was born and raised in Johnson County, and as I told juries, I got here just as quickly as I could.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you for wanting to serve in this capacity. It is a difficult job to want to serve in the public anyway, and then your job added with the criminal justice system. And you, sir, Mr. William Wallace, maybe related to Braveheart. I don't know, but I will find out one day.
Good evening. My name is William Wallace. I'm your judge on the 378th Judicial District Court. We are one of 3 district courts in Ellis County. Primarily, we handle the family law, child custody, child support, and divorce issues. Additionally, we all 3 district courts share jurisdiction over felony, civil, and family. I've been on the bench since July the 1st of 2018, and prior to that I was a white-collar prosecutor, and before I was a prosecutor I was in civil litigation for about a decade. So
Wow,
I feel blessed to be here.
It's quite a change. Did you grow up in this area or such, or?
No, but yeah, and it is a huge change. Once you get elected to the bench and you're not on the trial table, you've got to learn how not to object, how not to be an advocate, how to be an impartial jurist and listen to both sides patiently, equally, and fairly, and then try and come up with a good decision. So it's a change, but I think certainly I'm not the only lawyer that's made that change, right? Everyone has, but that is a judge now. But it's something that if you're careful about it, you pay attention, you train well, you can certainly make that change in mindset. So.
It takes a certain level of professionalism to be able to deal with that, because you're gonna not like some of the things you have to do, and some of the things that they're gonna be with you. Some of those things stick with you. You don't want them to, but they kind of do a little bit. So, you know, I commend you for wanting to do that and do it every day. That's big. Ms. Montgomery, tell me more about what's going on with the criminal justice system here in Ellis County.
Well, last March we had this thing called COVID.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
And it kind of put a stop to everything. Ellis County got up and functioning pretty quickly with our WebEx technology. The judge is familiar with that, so that we could do virtual hearings. I think we might have been down a couple of months with no hearings, something like that. But we got up pretty quick. No trials though. So the criminal justice system had not had trials until last month.
So it came to a screeching halt.
For trials,
Right.
but we were still able to have hearings. We were still able to have plea bargain agreements if people wanted to reach an agreement with the state. But if they wanted a trial, they were put on a list. And so last month, or back in May, the city of Waxahachie and the county entered into an agreement to utilize the Civic Center. so that we can still socially distance and have all the safety precautions in place. So last month we picked 4 or 5 misdemeanor juries and we picked 1 felony jury. Next week, we're doing this 2 days a month. One day we pick misdemeanors, one day we pick felonies. Next week we will be impaneling a new grand jury on Tuesday, picking a felony case, and then on Wednesday they will be selecting at least 3 or 4 misdemeanor juries. And those trials will be held in between next week and the first part of August. And so every month at this point, there's 2 days that we're at least picking juries, trying to work through some of the cases.
Now, you said felonies. How many felonies kind of, what's going on in the county prevalent as far as felony-wise?
Right now, in talking to some of the justices of the peace, what they have seen an uptick in, because they arraign the defendants, are assault, family violence, domestic violence cases, and crimes against children. Because for a year, nobody really were able to see the children, so reports weren't being made. But now that they're back, more reports have been made. And I will say since last August, we've had quite an uptick in, murders, intox manslaughters.
And would you say that it's keeping in line of what's going on throughout the country as far as the crime rates increasing in certain places, or it's just now that COVID's gone, the activity's coming, it's going to get back to a normal level? Or
I think the number of murders, capital murders, and intox manslaughters we have pending in my office right now is way more than what we have ever had at one time. The county is growing. With growth and population increases, you're going to end up with the crime increasing. Is it increasing in conjunction with the population? Yes. But we have seen just an uptick in more of the violent crimes.
so how many murder cases right now?
Right now, I have 21 in my office and 6 more on their way.
Now tell me, was there something when you ran for district attorney, was there something that you wanted to really focus on? One of the things that I see online a lot is getting a lot of consciousness, especially now in the law enforcement field, is sex trafficking.
Yes.
And crimes against children. Would you say that you wanted to kind of focus on that? What are some of your priorities as the district attorney?
In January, the Children's Advocacy Center reached out to me, and the governor's office has a child sex trafficking task force. And so we have been working on Ellis County's response to child sex trafficking. It's happening here. I know that we have one right now that is a trafficked victim, but that causes them to also end up potentially in the criminal justice system because of some of the behavior. So we have those cases now. It's just we're trying to gather Ellis County's response to that. I didn't necessarily focus on any one crime when I ran for office. What I said was, if I'm elected, I will prosecute all crimes. I will not be a district attorney who will pick and choose what offenses and say, I'm not going to take shoplifting under $750. I won't do that.
Yeah, we were gonna, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I definitely, like Mr. Gascon out in LA, I mean, I know it's a different world out there, I understand that, but, he's chosen to prosecute what he wants to prosecute and leave what he doesn't out. And I understand, what kind of challenges have you had enforcing some of these laws?
I don't think we have. Our biggest challenge right now is with the new marijuana. The last legislative session, hemp and hemp farming became an issue. And what they did then is they said if it's over a certain amount of THC, it's marijuana, but if it's under that, it's hemp. So when that was passed, there was not a lab that DPS operated that could test for the amount of THC in marijuana. So things had to go out to private labs. And there's a lot of people that believe marijuana should be legalized anyway. I'm not going to take a position on that because it's against the law right now in the state of Texas.
Right.
And so my duty and obligation is to enforce the law.
And that's good. Sometimes that's a tricky one. And
It is.
I wouldn't ask you it anyway, but that's a tricky one. I've put a lot of thought into that one. So as far as the low-level crimes, what do you see the rise on?
Domestic violence.
domestic violence on the low level side, it's coming through the roof.
Yeah.
And then kids, as you said. So what are some of the positive things that you've seen going since you've been the district attorney?
I think since I've been the district attorney, I've opened lines of communication with law enforcement. We've made ourselves more available to them, to where if they need us at a crime scene, they pick up the phone and call us and we're there. If they have questions, we're able to answer them. It's a lot easier if you get called to a scene to look at something and respond to it, as opposed to over the phone. We've been working on law enforcement training. So I know that I've reached out to our association to talk about drunk driving training, because that's has increased a little bit, or drug driving. So I'm trying to get somebody from our association here to offer that type of training to our law enforcement agencies. We'll see if I'm able to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
We're working on that. So, because training is just now for us increased in the state in person. All of our training last year, and for me through May, was virtual.
Mm-hmm.
So we are just now going to in-person conferences again for
Right.
our education.
Well, I mean, there's definitely things that have to be, the state puts different mandates and you have to know them.
Right.
You have to know them. And is it anything like they show on TV shows? Because I don't know your side of the criminal justice part of the field. So is it something like that when they do TV, the cops we got all this evidence and the DA won't, you're trying to end that or try to work better with them?
We're trying to work better. There's always going to be a little bit of a disconnect, because law enforcement's role is probable cause, but yet we have to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. And sometimes probable cause is there, but we might not be able to get there beyond a reasonable doubt. And so that's just explaining it to the law enforcement agencies, and if there's things that could have been done differently that weren't done, then we can explain that and help educate on that.
Right. Well, I wanted to get to the cool part, because I heard something from Mr. Wallace, Judge Wallace, and he had told me something that I found was great, and that was that Ellis County is establishing a veterans court. Now, can you explain what a veterans court is, Judge Wallace?
Well, I'll put it in some terms I hope people understand. A veterans court is a deferred prosecution program.
Yes.
We like to call it a veterans court or a veterans treatment court, but it is the court system and the district attorney's office working in concert. What you have is a subset of society, our veterans, and we want to give something back to them. And what we're giving them in a deferred prosecution is a chance at a fresh start. How is that different from, say, just getting something expunged? Well, you can't just get anything expunged. It has to never have been tried. You can't take a deferred adjudication and still get an offense expunged. But in a deferred prosecution program, the district attorney makes a decision. All right, if you'll come forward, if you'll take responsibility for what you've done, if you will subscribe to this program that we're going to set up for you, and you successfully complete it, we will not charge you. We will defer the prosecution, and you will be immediately eligible for an expunction. So what it is a real live fresh start for somebody who has run afoul of the law. Now, why do we do it? Well,
That's big, because I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but I was talking with a fellow veteran sister of mine. We were talking about this about a year ago, about a year and a half ago, before COVID. We were talking about, and we were talking to some people about establishing a veterans court.
Right.
And I guess there was no, that just wasn't one of the priorities at the time. I understand that. But then you told me, hey, we're doing this. So, I mean, yeah, I love that you're going there. And how, tell me more about how this helps veterans like me with PTSD that may have, unlike me, problems with the law.
well, and PTSD is or post-traumatic stress is something that is essentially a lifelong issue. you're going to work with it the rest of your life. But if at some point it takes control of you and you don't take control of it and you run afoul of the law, then this, a deferred prosecution program, the Veterans Treatment Court, is the way we say to them, all right, we're going to, as society, we're going to forgive you. We're going to give you an opportunity to put this behind you and not have it stain the rest of your life. And it's a way of picking out, based on their service to us, their willingness to put their life on the line, or go down range. That service to us has, if you will, bought them a fresh start. But they've still got to do the work. There's nothing about it that's free. It's a fresh start, not a free start. So it's a hand up, but nothing's being given away. Okay.
What's incorporated in that? So what is the difference between, the veteran commits a crime, you get the file. How is it decided, hey, this guy might be eligible? What is this criteria?
The statute says that due to their service in the military, and whether it was combat or not, if they have a diagnosed issue, then they can be accepted into the program. For me, I'm going to look at misdemeanor offenses, probably DWIs, your drug offenses, felony drug offenses. I have a little bit harder time with the aggravated felonies, simply because of the egregiousness of the offense, but those are things that we'll establish as we go along as to which cases we can look at. I can say during the campaign, I went, a good friend of mine that I went to law school with is a judge for the Veterans Court in Tarrant County. And I went and observed one of their afternoon dockets, just to see what it was like, because I'd never seen one. And it's different. It's a lot different. It's almost like probation, but it's not. It's a much harder than probation by what I saw. I mean, because if they don't do something, then they immediately come back because they're reporting pretty much on a regular basis to the court, and the court can impose a sanction on them with more community service hours or whatever it is that the court feels like is appropriate. I looked at some of the offenses they had and some of the successes that they had, and one of the ladies that was graduating that day, it was a female, it was the photo of her in her bookend versus the photo of her at graduation. It was completely different. She was using meth, and so by the time she went through the program and graduated, obviously she was a little bit larger because she didn't have the meth, but it was still very healthy looking. Yeah. And her daughter was there, her young child and her husband. And the judge had introduced me before saying, I'm running for the district attorney here, and we didn't have a program, and I wanted to come and see it. And she looked at me and said, if you do not have this program, you need one, because it saved my life. Because she doesn't feel that she would have gotten the help she needed and kicked the habit of meth had it not been for this program.
Wow. And I know that's why I was discussing it. I discussed it with several veterans last year, because I've known brothers in arms who ran afoul of the law, maybe DUI or something, and didn't have this opportunity. And so I know that having that opportunity gave that my friend a chance. So I like to see that. I definitely wanted to see that, because I know I know PTSD intimately. I understand some of the things it does to your brain, and how your response mechanism doesn't work very well sometimes, and sometimes the decision making. And so those things for the state, the county, wanting to give the vets a chance, that is one thing.
And once I would make a decision on a case, then it would be given to a coordinator or to the court, and they would be appointed an attorney to help them through the process, so that they could, and that attorney would also help them at the end, if they successfully completed and graduated, get their record expunged.
Judge, what would be your role?
Okay, that's a good question. And I think that the judges in Collin County and the judges in Tarrant County who've been very successful with this have created regular meetings, we'll call them dockets, okay? During those meetings, there's more than just the supervised veteran present. It's an intensive, essentially a combination of probation, veteran services, mental health services, and counseling. And they come to court, they take responsibility for what's going on, they report on the progress of their program, and if they reach the end, there's a period of time involved, when they reach the end of that, if they have been successful, that judge can sign off and tell the deferring prosecutor, hey, they completed this successfully. And when they do that, there is a graduation, a pat on the back, a happy day, and then of course they're entitled to immediate expunction, and that is sort of a step that follows the program. As soon as they've been graduated from it, they have the opportunity to sit down and fill out those forms, and it's that is the real prize at the end. It's not a challenge coin or a diploma or a pat on the back. Those are great things. But it is the opportunity to be able to walk in to a job interview and say, no, I don't have an offense on my record. And they can say that at that point.
Judge, how do you feel, I'm sorry, Judge, how do you feel about having this opportunity to do that?
Well, you and I have spoken before this, okay? And so I know you served in the Navy, you know I served in the Marine Corps and in the Army.
I don't know how that, because it's like you did the elite fighting force and then you went to the Army. And I don't understand why.
It actually isn't that difficult to understand. I enjoy.
You wanted to train the Army better or what?
I'll always be a proud Marine, and even as a soldier, people introduce me as, oh, this is Wallace. He was a Marine. It's as if they were both giving him a warning and a sort of a safety warning, like don't leave this guy alone. He might need a crayon or something.
Yeah,
But,
crayons definitely.
The reality is, I look back. I'm 55 years old now, and my best friends are still soldiers I served with, and there's a reason for that. It is a bond and a brotherhood.
It is a brotherhood.
And we have a very strong veterans community in Ellis County, and the veterans groups here are active and alive, and over the years they have increased their interest in this, as have some members of the defense bar, some members of the prosecutor's office, and what you get in the end is we sit here in 2021 in a nation that has been sending warriors downrange for 20 years uninterrupted, and we have got a larger population of combat veterans and veterans with PTS that I think it is absolutely just not a discretionary thing anymore. The counties that are looking at this that have got veterans populations like us, it's something we owe our citizens. So for me to get to serve as the judge of the court, once it is created and up and running, that's an ongoing commitment and interaction with that community that I'll never, ever be able to and not feel honored to do.
And I just want to say that, thank you for that. Thank you for your service. And I will gladly volunteer my time to help you in this endeavor, because I believe in this. It isn't just enough to lock them up and throw away the key. That's not, once you get there, your criminal justice system falls apart.
Right.
You were going to say?
And what I was going to say
Sorry.
is that the meetings or dockets are run much differently than a normal criminal docket. The judge will sit there and say, okay, at this last meeting you were supposed to do this, this, and this. Have you done this? It's almost like an AA meeting to where they stand up, or the one I have seen, they stand up and the judge talks about, this is what you were supposed to do, have you done it, where do we go from here? And they do that every time that they come to the court. So it's a lot of accountability. And I know I've been keeping a file on this every time somebody says, oh, I'd like to be a mentor, or, oh, here's this person who could help. I jot it down and I put it in my file so that when we do get this up and going, we've got some resources to start with.
What's the estimated start date?
I'd like to see it in place by the end of the year, but I think we can work on moving that a little bit closer. One of the key factors, though, is whether or not we can get grant approval from the state. And so we'll be working together, the prosecutor's office and my office, to make that grant application to see if we can get some things in place. There are some structural issues. You know, you need a coordinator, you need some things like that. We'll find the time on the docket. We'll find the time in the day. That's not a problem.
Jake Elsey is our local representative, and I hope to have him on here soon to talk to him about his congressional run. But if he does end up staying our local representative, he's a Navy vet, and I'm sure he would, you know, I would love to talk to him about helping this grant, you know, speed up. That would be great, because I would love to start this.
And one of the things, I mean, I've met with the criminal defense bar virtually back in, I think, March. As I said, you know, we don't have this up and running now, but if you have a defendant or a client with a date of offense after I took office, and that you think would qualify for Veterans Court, then let us know, and we can transfer it to another county if they work or live in another county. And so we can transfer it to another county that has a Veterans Court.
Wow.
If we don't have it here up and operational, then we can at least transfer it out. And I would not be opposed to transferring those cases out to another Veterans Court until we get ours up and functioning.
Wow, man, that's big, because you don't have to do that.
No, it's that is discretionary on my part. I can say no, but,
That is so awesome
yeah.
that you would help. Thank you. As a vet, I thank you. So, you're looking at the end of the year, and it sounds like, you know, you have great ideas. What can the public or our local officials maybe do to help you in this?
You know, there are a couple of core functions. Obviously, they have to take place in this building with the DA's office and the court. But I think that the public support, if it's made known to those that have the authority to assist us, then that's great. You know, but we can't go out and certainly a judge cannot go out and get behind a political issue. So I'm not going to make it in that context. What I'm going to say is we have enjoyed the support of the veterans community and the general population. Because if you go out into our population, you're going to find every family's got a veteran, you know. And so it really, I mean, this is one of the things that makes America great, right? So if we can continue to enjoy that support, I think we can get something in place that will make us all quite proud. And the young soldiers, and we're not talking about just young soldiers, but the young soldiers and sailors that come back now. I'm 55. I look at them with awe. I mean, I think what an extraordinary fellow or woman for what they've done. And I did not know that as I got older, I would be able to, you know, that this generation would come up behind me, and I'd have all these, you know, role models that are younger than me I could look back at. And I want to serve them well. I know that Ann does too. So we'll do what we can, and we'll try to keep the public, the defense bar, and those out there that would support us, you know, informed. So.
Okay, and if there's a veteran coming along now, I know the program isn't starting now, and with, you know, an offense that would qualify for this program, is there anything you could do at this point to deal with that, or you got to wait till it's completed?
no, I mean, if they reside or work in another county, I believe that's the criteria for transfer. I can transfer it if they lived in Dallas, but they just got stopped here for maybe a DWI. I have the authority to transfer it to that Dallas Veterans Court, and they can accept that there. And so we can do that. And I've told the defense bar that for offenses after I took office, because the offenses prior to that are in the system and they've been in the system for a while.
Right.
But anything after January 1st, I would consider and look seriously at doing that if they had that. I've not had any calls yet. Because I checked with my felony prosecutor earlier today and said, has anybody come to you about a veterans court issue? And she said no. So far we've not had anybody that seems to fit that would need to be transferred out.
Okay.
But part of it is working with the sheriff and the sheriff's office to identify veterans when they're booked in on an offense, making sure we're aware that there are people that are eligible for the program. And so that'll be part of the criteria of developing this program for us. It doesn't do us any good to create this thing and put it on a shelf.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's my understanding we've got somewhere around 20 or 25,000 veterans that live in Ellis County. Out of 200,000 or so residents, It's a significant population.
Yes.
So it's not whether we'll have a need. We do have the need. It's when and how large will the need be. I know that when Tarrant County started it, they didn't expect that they would need 2 courts. And they have got 2 up and running and going all the time. I know the judge in Collin County actually this is almost all he can do now. He's got to go to other counties and preside over veterans courts there. He does a significant job. He's a Marine Corps veteran. So there are, as was the first judge in Tarrant County, a Marine Corps veteran. So I think that we have all the support we need. We'll push it to fruition, but I think I'm excited about where we go next. So.
Well, thank you so much for sitting with me.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for serving and for this Veterans Court thing. It's big. It really means a lot. Veterans issues is part of me. So I really appreciate you guys making the effort in this. Hoorah, Judge Wallace. Dad was a Marine, so I give you, I had to give you guys a ride for a little while.
Well, thank you for your service in the Navy.
I appreciate that. Well, guys, there you have it. They would like some public support, and now that you know that Ellis County is moving in that direction for a Veterans Court, talk to your local reps and let them know you support this. Give a veteran a second chance to better their lives. I'm going to be having Miss Andrea Walton talk about some legislative issues with MISD coming on, and I'm looking to have possibly Jake Elsey come on in the middle of the month, and I also am looking at Miss Joanne Fay, the superintendent of MISD, to come on and talk with you. So I appreciate you watching. You take care.